Hi, I'm Dr. Terra DeFoe, and you're watching On the Floor. Today, we will meet a man that tried to do something right by doing something wrong, and as a result of his decision, was 24 years behind bars. Now, that same man has turned his life around by dedicating his time and efforts to help young people cope with violent trauma and reform their lives for the better. We're talking about Calvin Evans, the head of DLIVE at Sinai Grace DMC Hospital. Calvin, describe the chain of events that landed you in the Department of Corrections.
So I think I will have to start early on. I witnessed my mother being beat by her boyfriend. And so after years of her being beat by her boyfriend, in my mind, I felt like I had to do something to get her out of the situation. I didn't necessarily know how to get out of the situation. So I began to sell drugs. And as a direct result of my selling drugs, I got caught up on a murder charge.
Going into prison as a young man and coming out as an adult, what was it like?
So I remember when I got sentenced, my mother said that y'all gonna turn my son into a monster. And so with that, it made me think like I thought I was already a monster and my mother was just oblivious to who it is that I was, or that I did a real good job hiding it, or she saw something in me that I didn't see. And so going in, I felt like I was losing the only opportunity that I have, which was to be the first person in my family to graduate from college. I'm the oldest grandchild, and I wanted to be the first one to graduate from college. And I thought I was gonna lose that, but that I actually did turn out to be the first because they had college while in prison. So that turning my child into a monster triggered me and say, okay, while I'm here, I'm gonna become the best me that I possibly could be.
Help me understand, after receiving the news that you were being released, what happens?
Scared. I didn't know if I would be able to make the adjustment from prison to society. I didn't know if I was prepared. I didn't know what society was like. I knew that like my family would know me as who it is that I was when I got locked up, and not who it is that I was, like who I am now, right now. And I knew that like I would be held to those old standards. So it was like I was afraid, but I was anxious. Like I knew that I could do it. It was just, now I'm here now. Let me do it, you know? So I had to get over those barriers that I had within myself in order to be able to effectively do that.
Let's fast forward. You're being released and you realize something is wrong. What happened that caused you to start helping in your community?
So I think it actually happened. I always trace everything back to what my mother said while I was being sentenced. Like, you're gonna turn my child into a monster. And so that right there was a triggering point for me all through my incarcerated stay. And while I was incarcerated, I did a lot of things that would actually help me to become productive while I was out here, including eating. I stopped eating pork, I stopped eating beef, because I wanted to be healthy. I didn't want to seem like I was beat up when I was released. And I knew that I would be released one day. And I envisioned when I'm 44, I'll be released. You know, first time seeing a parole board, I was actually released. So that was my thing, preparing myself all the way through. And in that preparation, what I did is I linked myself with individuals who were coming into the prison system that were young, that didn't understand the prison system. So I helped them mitigate the prison system. So quite naturally, I had a responsibility to those who were in the prison system who will never come home to do what it is that they did for me, and then get out into society and do the same thing, because that was expected of me. So they taught me that when I do get out, that I needed to be doing this for our community. I had a continuing debt to society, and I had to make sure that I fulfilled that on behalf of them, actually. You know, not so much of myself. You know, you owe it to everybody who you come in connection with to become the best you that you possibly can.
So for people that may not know, what is DLIVE and what is the organization's mission?
Detroit Live is the first hospital-based violence intervention program in the state of Michigan. Violence, from our lens, is anyone who have been stabbed, shot, or intentionally assaulted. So even if you're intentionally assaulted with a motor vehicle, you fit the criteria to be a part of the program as long as you're between the ages of 14 and 30. We look at violence as a public health issue as opposed to a criminal justice issue. So anyone who is a victim of violence, what it is that we try to do is we try to provide, well, I won't say try, what we do is we provide them with the toolbox from a social determinants of health lens to effectively transition them from where it is that they have been to where it is that they would like to go. So we have a whole behavioral health team, we have licensed social workers, we have licensed psychiatrists, and we have a licensed therapist that all of our guys see because we believe that wherever the mind goes, the body will follow. So it's a shifting of the mind, a paradigm shift in the mind. And what we found is that all of what it is that an individual has gone through is what it is that they have been taught in their earlier years.
What triggers DLIVE's involvement here at Sinai Grace Detroit Medical Center?
An individual coming to the hospital, they're admitted into the hospital. Well, they're not necessarily admitted, they're seen by the hospital staff. Once they're seen by the hospital staff, they are treated, and then once they're treated, they're released back into society. But they're released back into society not having dealt with the acute stress disorder or the PTSD or adverse childhood experiences that they come into the hospital with. And so we understand that. So once they come into the hospital and they're treated, we actually meet them at their bedside. We call that our teachable moment. And going to the bedside, getting them to consent, and providing them a toolbox to be a productive citizen in society, if you will.
What are some of the challenges you experience working in the program?
Our biggest challenges is transportation and housing. Transportation is because what we recognize is that anyone who's been a victim of violence, they don't want to get on a public transportation system. Reason being because a lot of the elements in which they have been a part of exist on the bus or at the bus stops. They're in abandoned houses, and so there's this paranoia. The paranoia is real because we're dealing with people who are dealing with PTSD. If not PTSD, acute stress disorder. Acute stress disorder lasts for 28 days and then it turns into PTSD. So transportation is that barrier because, no one wants to get on a transportation. So that has been one of the barriers in housing because most of our guys are couch surfing, which is not homelessness technically, but they're living from one friend's house to the next. And our thing is like being able to fix this transportation and housing issue so that we can find a place of safety for these individuals.
What do you think is the greatest impact the program has with the hospital and your service clients?
The fact that individuals that engage in our program, no one has been re-injured. So in the 3 years of our existence, there has been no one who has engaged in the process of our work that has been re-injured. So what it does for the hospital, it does two things. It says that what it is that people believe about Sinai Grace Hospital isn't true. It connects them with the community. And the truth is that Sinai Grace is a hospital that does care for the community and is doing work on behalf of the community by letting me in like I'm a felon. So that doesn't naturally happen. Returning citizens don't get into the hospital. And we've been in the hospital 3 years and we're steady growing. We're actually moving over to receiving at middle next year.
In a perfect world, what would you like to see happen to help returning citizens as they are released and returning back into society?
So in a perfect world for me, I would like there to be a outreach program where there is a community, sort of these Greek fraternities that are in colleges. And so all the resources that everyone has that has come out of prison, everyone who's coming out of prison that really is trying to be productive in society has access to. So it's sort of like a peer-to-peer sort of training that begins prior to an individual getting out. So I would think that it even start at the beginning of their sentence. Once you're sentenced, now you go through this whole behavioral health training, and it's all peer-to-peer, people who have been through it. And these individuals are helping you navigate not only the prison system, but when you return to society at large. But they're committed to changing the conditions of the environment in which we are existing in.